The headline of this conversation is really digital rights management, and in Vobel's words, making creative more valuable. We're going to get into what that actually means. But the audience here, Larry, are independent artists at different stages in their careers who are trying to learn more how to be more successful, how to make money, how to create better content, how to produce better music, how to release music more strategically. And in this case, once they have music out and it's living in different places on the internet, what do they need to know about that? What are the opportunities? What are things that are being missed out on? So if you wouldn't mind, in your own words, giving people just a simple explanation of what exactly is digital rights management from your perspective, and why should anybody care about
Yeah,
it?
you got it. So just I'll just give a quick little background so people can see I have some knowledge of what I'm talking about. So my background has been in the music business for a long time. I've had my own independent record label. I ran an independent production library. Um, I had a YouTube company called We Are the Hits, which worked with a bunch of independent YouTubers who were singing cover songs on YouTube, and that whole
Hmm.
phenomenon to make sure they got paid. Ultimately, I sold that
Yep.
company to PEX. PEX is an identification and tracking and attribution company. We'll get into that. And then they were recently sold, or we were recently sold to Vobel, which also does content protection and attribution more on the video and movie side. So I've seen all parts of this, from being a musician myself to running a record label with independent artists to having a production library on independent artists. So
Awesome.
my background, or I guess my mission, in my career has always been to kind of help support the independent music scene. We certainly represent, in my career, major label content. I worked at Sony Music Publishing too, so I've been around to see kind of how
Big
how
boy.
the how the winners operate and how those that strive to be winners can participate. So what has happened in this world, in my opinion, is where there used to be kind of one or two things to worry about, right? I make a record, I press a CD, or I press vinyl, or I make a cassette, and I got to get it into local record stores or regional record stores, or sell them at my shows or to my friends. Has now been that the distribution of music and content is spread out. It's generally on 8 or 10 places that matter, right? YouTube, TikTok, Meta, Spotify, Apple, Deezer, SoundCloud, etc. But because it's digital
Yep.
and worldwide in nature, and one button can send your music everywhere in the world, it is more important than ever, since you have less of a control of it. You don't go down to the local record store and give them 20 copies of your CD and on consignment, and then you show up 2 weeks later and 10 of them have been sold, and it cuts you a check for $100. Like, those days are gone, obviously. So now, knowing
Yep.
what your content is at the beginning, making sure that you have that asset managed in a way that you can track it as it flows into this much larger world, whether you're putting it out through a DIY distributor like DistroKid or TuneCore or CD Baby, whether you're on an independent label that is distributed by Symphonic or The Orchard, or you're signed to a major label, it's more important than ever that you have control and understanding of your asset. I don't love calling it an asset, just like I don't love calling them creators. I think they're musicians, right? That's just my take.
Yep.
Um, and
Yep.
I don't think of it as an asset. It's music, right? It's more art than that, in my opinion. But the vernacular says that you got to know what you're doing, so when it goes out into the world and earns, that when the money is flowing back, that it actually flows back correctly to you as a performer, you as a songwriter, you as a guitar player in the band, right? And it's just more important than ever, because if it gets lost out there, it gets much harder to kind of find it once it's gone, right? And I think that's the root of it.
So yeah, so in a sense, there's in two main portions of this. There's identity, which is knowing this is my song, my creation, and then there's detection.
That's right.
There's the system that lives on the internet that says, hey, that thing that's yours, here it is. We found it out in the sea that is the
That's right.
internet. This is a fingerprint, so to speak, for your particular music or the thing that you created. So that's is that the core infrastructure. Identity is kind of the first piece in establishing
Yeah,
uh, digital
yeah,
rights
I
management.
think you're close to the hoop on this. I would put it more like this. Number one is you got to make sure your metadata is right. Okay, and that's always a big topic in
Got it.
this industry, right? Larry Mell's band does a song called, Pink Shirt. It was written by Larry Mills, and I'm with ASCAP or BMI, and that is my song recorded. And Tim was
Mhm.
the guitar player, and Susie was the bass player, right? And all the information necessary. So before you distribute it, so before you fingerprint it, before you send it to DistroKid, before any of that is done, that you have all of your data correct at the beginning, so ultimately, in
Yep.
this boomerang of throwing it out into the world and waiting for things to come back, that it comes back to you, the artist, you, the songwriter, you, the guitar player who has neighboring rights, right? We can get into deeper parts of these things. So if Sound Exchange is collecting money because it played on the radio or a digital radio, if BMI is collecting that money because you're a songwriter and it's being played on the radio or in television, if DistroKid is
Yep.
collecting your money from Spotify, if your YouTube claiming partner is doing it because someone else made a viral video with your song in it, it all has to come back, and initially the ownership has to be right. Then what happens is,
Yeah.
then when it gets distributed out into the world, then yes, all those mechanisms and systems to identify that Larry Mills band song was used in a viral dog trick video that was then, gone viral on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, anywhere, that ultimately does get matched correctly. Okay, that was the Larry Mills band song. It's in this viral dog trick video. That money should flow X, Y, and Z back out. So the system can fall apart multiple places, right? And since it can fall
Hmm.
apart multiple places, it's important that you set it up so you have, a much stronger one pipe that is flowing, instead of trying to have all these, oh, I got to go over here and find my YouTube money because I didn't do that right, and I got to go over here and find my Spotify money because I didn't do that right. So it's really important you set your metadata first, and then ultimately you got to make sure that you're with the right places and the right systems to collect it once it gets out in the world. But yeah, I think that's digital. If you think of
Got it.
rights management or asset management and tracking and attribution, those are the two. That's the peanut butter and jelly here, I think.
Got it. So, in a quick recap, I like that you used yourself as the example, as somebody who makes music. And so, if you and I wrote a song together right now, and we had a friend of ours come and produce it, whatever the case may be, we're going to make sure that Larry Mills and Tim Jack and the producer, the metadata for who created that song is all ironed out from square zero.
That's
Like
right.
the moment that a creation is done, that metadata has to be correct, in place, dialed in, no missing pieces, and that's going to establish the ownership and the who owns the rights to this in the beginning. And then from there, uh, it's it's could go anywhere,
Go anywhere.
basically. Like you said, a viral dog video, this stuff happens to people all the
All the time.
time. And it gets reproduced and reposted and recreated, could be thousands or even millions of times. And in digital rights management will help identify when the gap is that wide.
That's right.
It was actually Tim Jack and Larry Mills that made that
And
song.
yep,
So for people who don't have an understanding of it, I just want to make people understand exactly
that's right.
what this
and
is
and what I think,
first.
so the system is complex. I always say, like, the music business isn't, it's not, people are like, oh, it's really I don't know if it's complex. I always say it's a puzzle. It just has a lot of pieces, so it's not hard. It's just a lot of pieces. How does my music that gets played in Germany wind up getting paid to me? It's a pretty like, the line is obvious that there's a German PRO collects this money, they pay your US, but it's just a lot of pieces you have
Mhm.
put together. So it seems complex, but it really is just, unfortunately, it's a 10,000 piece puzzle instead of a 20-piece puzzle, right? And so it just takes time, and you just got, but it's the key to it always the metadata correctly. I'll use this as an example. Now there are, so I always, when I talk to independent artists, I always try to break their careers, if I can, into two pieces, right? What I call the nighttime piece, which is playing in bands, wanting to be a musician, wanting to be popular and famous and tour, right? If that's the goal. Then you got to have your 9 to 5 job. And
Mhm.
when I ran a production library, which is, if you're not familiar, this is where people submit music and then that music can be put on background music on television shows or advertisements. There's a lot of these. So this kind of, I call it the day job, right? So this is, I wrote this 30-second little piece and I'm never going to make a song out of it, but maybe it would be good in a commercial. So you kind of create music, as a friend of mine says, by the 10-pound bag. And you can then, like, it's a little bit, it's like, it's kind of the, again, it's the construction part of the business, right? And so you can submit it to these production libraries. That is expanded now, that you can submit things to the BeatStars of the world or the Splice of the world, like all these ingredient companies that you can take. So the
Mhm.
Larry and Tim production, when we're in the studio that day, we may write 3 bangers that we think are going to be big hits and we're going to go put these out and be big rock stars. But there may have been 2 or 3 other, that's right.
Yeah.
Then there may be 2 or 3. Anytime I can use the term bangers, it makes me seem like I'm 17. So I try to do that. So, but then you have basically this other stuff we did that was catchy, but it's never really going to be a song and kind of it's just a piece, right? But we still wrote it together. And now we're going to take that piece and we're going to put it on BeatStars or Airbit or Splice, and we're going to make that available to other people. Okay. Now you got a whole other kettle of fish. We've got this thing that we own together as a songwriter, and let's say it's just we did all the music ourselves. Now we're going to make it available for other people to use. So now Party 3 comes on to BeatStars and likes what we did, and they take that and put it into one of their songs, right? And then that winds up getting distributed in the world. So it's even more important that we know what we did, have distributed it in a way that we can track it, because now we actually have some
Yep.
ownership and use to that new song, right? And it could be 1,000 people that are buying that beat from BeatStars because it's non-exclusive. So because
Yep.
now this has become this much larger kind of world that was never the case before, right? That now you can be an ingredient in other songs and other popular songs. So it's even more important, if that's part of your day job as a working musician, it's even more important because now it's even more complex in the sense that I got 600 people using my song, and can I track that? Oh, that one's popular, right? Should I be getting some co-writing credits on that? Should I be getting, so it's really, really more and more important now that you have your metadata right. You make sure that your song is in one of the systems. There's ours and others that can track through fingerprinting. And then it's almost like you've built the foundation for all the outlets you want as a business and as a business person, as you think about how you want to distribute your music, either as an input for others, production library, BeatStars, etc., or I want to distribute through DistroKid or sign a record deal, all that stuff. So it's just vital you do it at the front, because going back to collect that stuff from people is always hard.
And obviously the main topic here is, if a piece of my work gets out there and some way of there's money being made on that work, it's, hey, I want to be compensated for
That's
it.
right.
I don't want to lose money if something I created is out there that somebody's using in some way, or some platform is publishing, and there's some form of revenue associated with it. Is there any other element besides just kind of like losing money or making sure I get paid, that is a part of this? Are there other considerations?
Um,
Obviously, that's the big
that's a
one.
big one. Look, I think we work a lot with some of these, like I said, these ingredient companies, and sometimes, yes, I think people should be fairly compensated for their work. That's the whole thing, right? I think it was the guy from who was it, Sears, or one of these guys many, many years ago. My dad used to talk about that. He would always be like, paying his employees. He goes, "Look, I sell refrigerators for a living. If I can't pay people enough money to buy refrigerators, then I'm going to get out of business. If we don't support musicians to make a living, then we're going to lose musicians." And so I'm a big believer that all these people should be paying more money. Spotify's the greatest app next to Google Maps in my life. I get every song at my fingerprints in my for like $20 a month. That's bananas, right? It should
Hmm.
cost me more,
Yep.
right? Like, are you kidding me? My whole family gets to listen to
Yeah.
any song ever for like the cost I used to spend in 2 months buying records when I was younger, right? So if
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
we
And when I was buying them, just that's one record,
right, right,
one
a hundred
CD.
percent. Um, so when
Yeah.
you think about, like, so getting paid and getting fairly paid is a huge thing, no question about it. And I think, again, if we can't figure out a way to support musicians, then what's the point? Okay. Now, the second piece of that is sometimes data is your friend on other things. So, for example, let's say when we go in to write these beats together, songs together, we may try different styles. We may be trying hip hop. We may try rock, soul, country, jazz, whatever it is, right? We may want to do guitar stuff, piano stuff, electronic stuff. Sometimes just knowing which of your music is effective where can also inform you, like any business. Hey, the pizza I make with, pineapples on it is more popular than the pizza I make with,
Yeah,
apples on it, right? So sometimes just
I
knowing
I
where your
actually
stuff is helpful for you as a creative person to know what's more, what's hitting a chord, no pun intended, with the people that are listening to your stuff and using it.
yeah, I actually had written down what I had written down two different things that are on the same topic that you're bringing up right now, which is, what data or insights, and I hate to be a little bit nerdy
It's all
in the
right. It's all
language,
right. I
but
do it.
it is what
It
it
is what
is.
it is.
What data and insights can artists get back from tracking their usage in different places? Like what kind of information would they receive, and how can they use that information to better their situation? And then on the same topic, I also had written down, um, is there a difference between good or bad exploitation of the music as
So
well?
it's funny when I was getting hired by Sony Music Publishing. I was running the music at Getty Images, and a recruiter found me, and I went and interviewed and with the CEO. This guy named Marty Van Deer, is like kind of the king of kings when it comes to music publishing, and it was like a great step up in my career to go work for him. So I get there and I get this title. It's VP of Strategy and Catalog Exploitation, is what it said. And I get a call. I get a
Yep.
call from the guy who was at the time was the assistant to Marty. He goes, "Do you want it to say with and, or do you want the ampersand?" I'm like, "Can we get rid of the word exploitation in my title? I don't think my parent."
What about
Yeah, how about
that?
that? They go, "No." I go, "I guess I'll take an ampersand then." So every time I hear exploitation, I think of like sending my mother, "Hey, I got a new job." She's like, "What do you mean exploitation?" But I think you're. So
Yep.
anyway, I think it depends on the kind of person you are and the kind of artist you are to think about these things, right? So it's not one size fits all, right? There are some artists who are now pulling out of Spotify because they don't like that Daniel Ek is giving money to like defense contracts. So let's put aside a reason why you would or wouldn't want to be on a certain site for your own personal ethics or beliefs, right? Which I'm a fan in. If you don't believe in that, or you say, hey, Spotify doesn't pay enough, or I think these guys are good, bad, or other, like to each their own, and I support that. I think you again have to decide what you're in it for, right? If you're in it for the fun of it, and you and your knucklehead friends, like I do, go into a studio every once in a while and just goof around and drink beers and make music and put some songs out, then the exploitation is kind of irrelevant for the 32 people who are going to listen to it, right? If this is a
Yep.
profession for you and your community of musicians, then I think you need to really be thinking about this as a business, right? And whether you or someone close to you is the one who's handling this, that's a decision for you as an artist or a band or to make, right? I think that when you think of exploitation and where it is, I think having a plan is always best. So is every exploitation good? Relatively. Like, do you want your song in a commercial for something you don't believe in, but they're going to pay you a lot of money? That's a decision you have to make. Do you want to let your music be in a
Sure.
production library that you get no say? You have pre-authorized that music to be in anything you want, right? Whether you are, pro or against penguins, if your music's going to be in a penguin documentary and you submit to a production library, you don't get to say. So you have to
Yep.
make that decision how much control you want, right? When it comes to how you want your music used and exploited. If you are all press is good press and all money is good money, and I want to make a living here and it's not as precious, or at least these things here aren't as precious, then yeah, you should be thinking about how do I put this on production library music? How do I make this available in the libraries on YouTube and TikTok for anyone to use it? And I make pennies, right? Then you can make your decisions on all the outlets to put your music, right? So again, metadata, know what you got first. Number two, make sure you're in an environment that you can track it. 3, make your decisions on your career, what you believe in and what you don't, and then start to knock off the things. In my view, hey, what are the things I want to put under the Larry Mills band? What are the things I want to put out just to put on Splice and BeatStars? Do I want to submit to production libraries like, I don't know, Pond 5 or Epidemic or, United Masters or Song Trader, right? There's just a lot of options. And I think it's
A
a
lot.
lot. And there are some places you can go one to many. I don't know to think of the name of the company, but you can submit to one company and they'll put it on every production library for you. So there are, there's a lot of options out there. And I think if you're in all the above, because you'll take $500 a month from 10 different places, then you should be thinking that all exploitation is good. If you're more precious about your art and you think of it differently, then you should act accordingly, in my view.
That was an amazing answer. That was my favorite. If there was a really good nugget to take away from this conversation, that answer covered a lot of really important
Thanks.
things that people should care about.
Takes me
So
a minute to
crushed
takes
that
me a
one.
minute to get rolling. I'll get there. I think but
Yeah.
as far as the data you get to go kind of to the more technical part of the question, different platforms are better at, depending on how you're operating with them, territory information. Was this watched by 13 to 17-year-old males in Argentina versus, like, some of the metadata can get very granular. It really depends. Like,
Hmm.
I don't know if Facebook is great with that or Meta is good at that. I think YouTube generally can give you some pretty good insights. I'm not as familiar with how SoundClouds or others or Spotify's break that information down for you, and then depending if you go through your distributor, how much of that gets shared with you. But whether it's too much or not, I always think more data is better, right? And that's, I think,
Hmm.
when I think about um, you know when I think about artists and their business, and if you think of it as a business, then the more data you can have is better, right? Like, I know there was a time, there's a
100%.
company called Luminate. They do a great job of aggregating data, more on, like, kind of global charts and major label stuff, but they do a great job of aggregating data. So labels, look, if you follow the leaders, right? These are people who track data to know, hey, there was a guy, there's a label called Republic Records. It's very famous. They have all the hits,
Yeah.
and they
Oh
were
yeah.
the first ones many years ago to use a ton of data to make their decisions, right? And it was very Moneyball, to use kind of the baseball term. And there was a guy who's now a very senior A&R guy, and he had worked there, and he told me a story that he had kind of found that by the data, it played at this radio station in Minneapolis and it sold this, and they were able to break down this kind of, why they should sign this artist purely based on data, right? And he walks into the office of one of the executives there, and he goes, hey, the record just came out, do you want to hear it? And at that point the executive goes, I don't need to hear it, it's a hit. And he was right. Just the data. He's like, and it was kind of like, part of you is a little sad that that's the way that music kind of was getting sold, but part of it was like, they knew based on what they saw. He's like, I don't need to hear it, it's fine, it's a hit, I can see it in the numbers. So I think if that's the way some of these larger labels are thinking about their business, then you should be, as an independent artist, you may want to be thinking about the same things.
I don't see it as a bad thing. I think if it's just the way that it's being presented, right? It's rather than some publication saying, "Hey, this is good
Right.
music. Check it out. I'm writing an article about it's my opinion." It's like it's actually
Yeah.
better to know that what is data really? Data is actually the result of human beings listening to something and, oh, I like this. Like this is good. I'm thumbs up for
Yeah.
me, and then that's happening in all different places and
Yeah.
formats. It's just the way it's being reported.
Yeah.
You know,
You bring up.
it's coming in a spreadsheet and saying, "Hey, the humans out there saying this is a killer song, we should sign it," and that's actually a really cool
Yeah,
thing. So
it's a good point.
in that context, I don't really think that it has it leaves a
Yeah.
bad
You
taste
know what?
in
I think,
creativity or
you know
anything.
what?
But
I've changed my mind on that story. I think that's a good point you make.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, um, thanks for sharing
Yeah.
that example. I think that's a good way to visualize how people have been experiencing this, thinking about it. I don't want to make it too long here because I want people to have a chance of actually getting through
Yep.
and watching this. So let's hit this one super
Yep.
fast. I wrote, "Don't bring up AI." Should I
Look, I think
should I
no, it's fine. I look,
not bring up
I
AI?
mean, look, you know, listen, here's my opinion on this. If we are in an entertainment short attention span world, I have two teenage kids. Every minute that they're listening to music and not scrolling, or listening to music and not playing a video game, I mean, it depends. I like video games too. Like, I think that's a win for music. So if it's good and it's entertaining and you'll put it on and like it and dance or cry or smile or whatever, like, then I'm for it. Right? I'm a music fan first and foremost, whether it's electric, and I like all styles. So if it's appealing and people listen to it, then I'm for it. Whether they made it themselves generally or used AI to make it, that may not be the way I want to make music. That may not be the music I want to listen to, but that's irrelevant, right? If more people will listen to more music, I think that's good for the world personally versus
Mhm.
doom scrolling and all the other things you can do with your time. So, like, right?
Sure.
So I think that's good. Now, how that inclusion of AI as an ingredient to the creative process, I think it's in the hand of the chef, right? And some can do it better than others. My issue with AI is I think people that are using AI to flood these streaming services and to kind of game the system to pull royalties away from what should be other artists, that I don't like and I don't agree with. And I think that if it is being used to game the system, this guy who's being sued in North Carolina who used AI to steal money from, these platforms, like, that is where AI, I think, can be used for evil, in my opinion. And if that's using for fraud, if that's using to pull money out of the royalty pool by bots and farms, and if it's like, then I'm against it, right? If it's being used by creative people to make better,
Yeah, yeah,
entertaining, creative stuff, then I'm for it 100%. I have no issues with it. Now, how do you
yeah.
track it? How do you ensure that it's like not? It shouldn't be getting if your music is an input in how they are training their model to create the way for someone else to make music and you are not being compensated, that's wrong. If I have agreed to, if I, the Larry Mills band agrees for Suno to use my music to train their model and they're going to pay me for it, that's my decision to make. And if that makes Suno a cool thing for someone else to come in and make a song, that's great. If they're training on the Beatles and they have not cleared that with the Beatles, that is wrong. And that needs to be stopped because that's, in my opinion, kind of messing with the game and screwing these artists over. So that's my general take on AI is they should be ethically training. And I know people that want to put their music in to get trained on, that's their choice. And if our creative people are using it to be more creative, then it's just another, it's another color in the paint box, right? I don't know if paint box is a thing. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's my take on it, right? In general.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's very concise. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you too on there's a difference between like a person who loves to create music and uses an AI tool to create something really cool versus somebody who is systematically designing something to take money rather than to create
Yeah, I agree.
something for a person to
And I
enjoy.
and I don't and I don't think that I
So
don't
on,
think that's like a, like, I think most people agree with it. I don't think that is a, outside the line take on this thing. And I think the industry generally is there on it. I think we just got to get these AI companies to buy into this. And listen, I know a bunch of these people that work at these AI companies. They want to do the right thing. They want to license this music. Some of them do, not all of them, but I think they would rather. I would say that licenses are an opportunity for revenue, right? Like, I
Mhm.
live in New York City, although I'm not a Yankee fan, but I'll tell you what, black hats with the Yankee logo sell more than plain black hats, right? And the reason you get that is because you got to pay the Yankees so
Sure.
you can sell a hat with a Yankee logo on it, right? So that license for the Yankee logo made people money. So I think they would rather
Yep.
that I can go into Suno and play around with a tool that the Beatles were part of is a better marketing tool, makes more money for the Beatles, makes more money for Suno. They just got to figure it out, right? But I think they want to get some of
Yeah.
them want to get there, not all of them, some of them
We'll see which ones
do.
do.
We will see.
So here's the practical stuff at the end here. If you can walk an artist through, if they decide, hey, I want to work with Vobal Hex, I want to use this platform. How do they get started? What does it cost? What should they
Yeah,
expect? That the practical nuts and
yeah,
bolts.
we're a little difficult for an individual user, um, just because it's we don't have kind of a come in and opt in for one thing kind of thing. We're a little bit more B2B in that sense. But we do have artists that have gone through what I would recommend if you are a songwriter and you this is where I would start with us as an individual. If you are a songwriter and have monies that are owed to you as a songwriter, that may be money in the MLC black box, YouTube black box, someone's covered my song, I don't know about it. That we work with individual artists. So artists come to us, they give us the compositions they control. I'm able to tell who has commercially released it, right? So if I'm working with Paul McCartney can come to me and say, hey, here are the 100 songs I wrote. Please tell me everybody who has covered this. I have 120 million songs in a registry that I can track audio and melody fingerprints and say, oh, here's the Larry Mills Band version of Let It Be. Here's the Tim Jack version of Let It Be. Here's Carrie. So I can tell you your full catalog. So for songwriters that believe their songs are out there in the world and they don't know about it, please contact us. Um, or I would have your record company or your distributor talk about how they're working with us. And we work with a lot of labels and distributors because they can do it at scale, right? We do things with millions of tracks by people. So we have had individual artists and songwriters go to their companies and say, hey, can you use PEX Vobal to track my stuff? Show me where it is on YouTube. Show me. So what we do is basically we fingerprint. We do audio fingerprinting, so the use of the actual song, sped up, slowed down, same
Mhm.
version, or cover identification, a karaoke version, my version, an acoustic version. And then we can track that not only in what's been commercially released, what have people put out on TuneCore, Sony, Universal, Warner, etc., but also where that has been on the internet. So I can show you where your songs are on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. So based on a fingerprint. So depending if you're a songwriter or a master, if you're the artist or the songwriter, you can either come to us directly or go through your representatives, your label, or your distributor to then find out that stuff. And it's generally pretty cheap. You know, it can be, depending on how many assets you give, it could be in the pennies to track it. Most likely to look all through the internet and background, you're talking $1 a song, right? So it's pretty affordable. But again, you got to kind of be part of a larger. We don't really have where you can come in one artist, one song. It's got to you generally be part of a large. We have a deal with BeatStars. You can go through BeatStars if you're a BeatStars member to track your stuff through a thing they call Beat ID, which we power. So there's multiple ways, but you know we
Mhm.
certainly can help folks out. You can just I'm sure somewhere in here we can put my email address or a support email address that I'll send to you. That maybe when you post this, we can put it up and people can reach out.
Yeah, that was my last thing is if people do have questions, where should they go to get them answered? So if you have a
Yeah,
support or whatever, that'd be
yeah.
great.
I will. I mean, I will give that to you. It's I think it's support at pex.vobalinc.com, but I'll confirm that and make sure that we have it here and you can post it up on the maybe in the notes section when you post this.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Yeah, we could put
There's
that up in the
also
community
yeah,
with
and there's
with
also
the with the
if you go to
clips.
pex.com, so we were acquired by Vobal, but that site still lives, and there's a contact us page on the site. So that's probably the best way. Just go to pex.com and there's a contact us. You fill out a form and we get back to you.
Yep, I'm looking at it now.
That's
PEX.com.
it.
Contact us, the dark blue
That's it.
button. If I'm not colorblind, maybe that's black. I don't know.
Either way.
Um, Yeah, simple field. Yeah, so it's a no-brainer. It's extremely affordable and could give you a lot of valuable information, potentially even help you track down
Yep.
money. Those are all really good things, and a lot more. I think it could be a whole world of education for some artists, and for some artists that are already super familiar with this already, then it could be a better option than maybe what else is
Yeah,
out there.
for
So
sure.
DYOR, do your own
Oh, I like that.
research. That's what I always
I
tell
like it.
people. Cool. Anything else you want to share before we close out?
Now I'll take any comments on my kitchen. If people have any like spices or oils I should be using back there, just let me know.
All right. If you guys have thoughts about Larry's kitchen,
There
you can feel free to reach out about that
you
too.
go.
This has been
Yeah,
fun.
man.
Thanks so much for doing it.
Anytime.
We kept it under 40, and we'll edit it down to be even shorter
Right
than
on.
that.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me.